In this video, we're going to talk about why you should celebrate summer solstice. And Taboo fam, peace and blessings. This is Derric Moore. And like I said in this video, what I want to talk about is why I think you should be celebrating summer solstice. Okay. Now, if you checked out the first video in which we talked about the winter solstice, you will recall that winter solstice is basically, it's an astronomical event. The Kemetic people went ahead and they allegorized it as the birth of Heru. Okay, so, I don't know about you, and I'm not sure if I told you this or not, but I actually have the nativity scene, and my little Heru is actually painted red and white. Have a little baby there, and like I say, he's he's painted red and white because I'm showing it's the birth of Heru. All right. Of course, if you're not familiar with the whole astronomical event, the astrological event, you have the three stars of Orion's belt. Those are the three kings. Okay. From the Kemetic perspective, that is Mpu. Okay. Mpu's number is 3. This is how the jackal masked, or the dog-headed divinity, how the nature leads the way. Okay. So there's a whole lot of connection to it, and like I said, when you get into it from an astrological perspective or astronomical perspective, it has the science aspect is beautiful, but the myth aspect of it is beautiful as well, because this is what you want for the children. This is how you also go ahead and you get yourself tied into it, into doing some magical things. Okay, so now here's summer solstice. Summer solstice is basically, this is the time. This is when the days are longer now than the evenings, than the nights. So, from a spiritual, or I would say a mythological perspective, we're celebrating Heru's defeat of Set. Okay, we're celebrating Heru defeating Set. Now, excuse me. If you go ahead and you do this, okay, if you've read the story of Osir and you're celebrating it the way in which, from a certain perspective, from a Kemetic perspective, from an Afro-Cuban perspective, remember, the reason why Heru was able to succeed in beating or defeating Set was because of his interaction, or because of him, engaging or having Osir intercede on his behalf. Osir, remember, is his ancestor. Okay, that's Heru's ancestor. Also, he had the wisdom of Jehuti to go ahead and helped him to defeat Set. Okay, so it's not just a champion thing, it's a whole combination of things that's going on. And I mean, we can talk about all the Neteru who basically are against Set, and they're working to defeat Set. All right, they all contributed to this cause of bringing, of returning the balance, of defeating Set, helping Heru to defeat Set. All right, Heru was the champion. Heru is the one who basically stood up and he fought against him. He is the hero, or he's the hero or heron, because, we're talking spiritually. So this is not just a physical thing. We're talking about the spirit, okay? So because of that, we go ahead and we celebrate that. And one of the ways in which I go ahead and I celebrate summer solstice is by recounting miraculous and magical events that took place in my life. All right, that's how I look at it, because I look at the whole summer solstice, or I look at that whole story of Osir as being it is a magical event. It's an event where you have all these, all the Neteru are contributing. They're assisting. They're working and working in cohort and, in concert with Haru to, like I said, to defeat Set. So I look at that as it being a magical event. And the first magical event that took place in my life, the first, miraculous and magical event that took place in my life was when I was a kid, all right? And there's a saying, sometimes you have, or there's a saying, I don't want to say sometimes, but basically the saying goes something like this, and I may, paraphrasing type of deal. God allows each one of us to have a miraculous or magical event in our life just to prove that it's possible. Okay? So keep that in mind. God allows a magical or miraculous event to occur in our life just to prove to us that it is possible. Okay? Now, when I first got into Kemetic spirituality, we're talking about before I started reading about Kemetic spirituality, before I got into the history, before I learned about meditation, before I went ahead and learned about manifestations and parallel realities, and before all of that, I remember I used to run track. I was running track in high school, and there was this kid, we ended up becoming good friends, but there was this kid that I ran against. And every time I ran against this kid, we would run the 100-yard dash. Every time I ran against this kid, this kid was always beating me, okay? And it was always by a few seconds or so. But anybody who's ran track there, those seconds, they matter, okay? And I couldn't figure out why. I was like, it used to eat me up because we will always be neck and neck, and this kid, he always pulls off in front, and come to find out, we went ahead, and one day I was like, I'm gonna beat this kid. I gotta beat this kid, and I was so serious about it. To the point that I completely just shut down, and I just focused on, I gotta beat this kid. I gotta beat him. Okay, I'm not gonna tell you what his name is, because I wonder what he's doing. But I went ahead and, like I said, I just focused on it. And I was like, I gotta beat this kid. I gotta beat him. So one day I went ahead, after doing my, my training, running, practicing, and all that kind of stuff. One day we go to a track meet. And I remember I was on the bus, and I just was my heart was like, I gotta beat him, okay? And I remember I was on the bus, and all of a sudden I started visualizing. And in the process of me visualizing, something happened. I'm going ahead and I'm visualizing, and I started visualizing the end result. I started visualizing crossing the finish line before everybody else. That's all I visualized. And I kept replaying that in my mind. I kept replaying crossing the finish line before everyone else. So when it came time for us to go ahead and run, went ahead, shook off, got it warmed up and everything, getting my starting blocks. Went ahead, gun goes off, we run. Sure enough, I beat him, okay? I beat this kid. And it was a surprise to me. It was a surprise to him. He even, of course, good sportsmanship. He went ahead and congratulated me and everything. Of course, his teammates was like, how do you let him beat you, But that was my first miracle, okay? That was my first, I would say miracle, but my first magical event. Now, of course, right after that, the next track meet, he came back and he beat me. And the reason why is because, of course, what I was doing, I'm intellectualizing, trying to figure out, how did I do this? How did that happen? Okay. And it wasn't until later on I found out, some years later, I found out that what happened, because I had been trying my best to understand what was that process? What actually did I do? And like I said, it wasn't until years later I found out that what happened was I went into trance. And when I went into a trance state, okay, I created my own transformation. I caused and became the creator of my own transformation. And that's how I was able to beat them. And that's how, not only that, that's how I was able to go ahead and accomplish a whole lot of other things after I figured it out. Okay? But that was my first miraculous event, my first miraculous and magical event that occurred in my life. Now, come summer solstice, that's a story I like to go ahead and I like to tell. All right? And I would encourage you all, if you've had some kind of event that changed your perspective, that allowed you to see your ancestors, allowed you to see your spirit guides, or allowed you to manifest a reality or create a magical event that occurred in your life, I would encourage you to go ahead and tell that story, during summer solstice. Because summer solstice to me is, like I said, this is the day in which Heru defeated Set. Okay? Now, again, looking at this from a spiritual perspective, we're talking about identifying with your person. Imagine being Heru. Imagine being told all this time. Imagine if I had never gone into that trance state. Imagine, being told, oh, okay, well, this kid is just faster than you and that's all it is to it. Imagine being told, oh, you can't accomplish this because of where you come from, because of, who you are, because of your background, because of your parents, or because of this what happened to your mama, or this is what happened to your daddy, or whatever the case is. Imagine all these things that have basically been told to you, they become part of your personality, but it's actually it's not your spirit. Okay? Imagine being Heru. Imagine being Heru. All right? Understand, we have to stop identifying with our person, with our flesh, with this Sahu part of our being. Identify with your spirit. Identify with yourself being Heru. Identifying creating miraculous and magical events in your life. Okay? And once you go ahead and you understand that, once you that becomes a reality, and you start to really understand and and grab hold to the fact that you are your own hero, okay? Then you can manifest your reality. And if you can manifest your reality, that means everything that basically we're seeing, everything, we have the power to change it. This is the reason why summer solstice, this is the time to celebrate that. Celebrate the fact that you are a god and you are a goddess. All right? So hopefully that helped you. Hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight into how some ways in which you can celebrate summer solstice. If you got some ideas, you got some suggestions, feel free, drop me a line as well. We're trying to go ahead and build this thing up because eventually what's going to happen, and I can see it, eventually we are all going to be sitting up here celebrating our Heru-ness, okay? We all are going to be sitting up here celebrating that we went ahead and we overcame when we were not supposed to, okay? Because you can't hold a god or a goddess down, all right? Thanks again for your comments, questions, and suggestions. Until next time, peace.